Okay, hello and welcome to what is going to be a little bit of a video response to the recent Tek Syndicate video dealing with sort of sound cards and headphones and audio in general. Just right off the bat, I want to say I'm not here to bash Tek Syndicate or Logan. What I'm here to do is talk about sort of my experience with gaming audio and different sort of headphones, DACs, sound cards, just so you guys can get another opinion, maybe more of a sort of a peer-reviewed opinion, since I basically started out as a gamer, knew nothing about audio, and I'll just sort of give you guys a snapshot of my journey and what I found to be true for me. So first off, I started like most gamers probably do with a USB headset, just your pretty much run-of-the-mill gaming headset, you know, had a mic, all that. I used the Vengeance 1500, but I know there are tons and tons of different ones out there. It had like a little integrated sound card, so it was able to run the Dolby headphone software, which does virtual. I think Dolby headphone only does 5.1 audio, but there was also like a Corsair 7.1 thing you could do, and these were decent. They weren't great for listening to music, but they did my digital sort of surround sound okay. Not many complaints. They didn't break the bank. This is a pretty good place for most gamers to be. There's not a ton I can really say about them. They were alright. Just one thing though is what a lot of sort of gaming orientated headphone and headset makers will do is they'll go on about the driver size. So here, Corsair go on and on about their 50mm drivers, blah blah blah. They greatly reduce stuff. Driver size isn't all that important. It does play a small part in sort of how good a pair of headphones will be, but it's certainly not the be-all, end-all. So don't get too caught up in driver size. I kind of fell for that marketing. So yeah, just a word of warning, don't fall for that. So after I had these Vengeance 1500s, I kind of became obsessed with the whole idea of true surround sound. And since I didn't have anywhere near the cash for a proper surround sound speaker system, I went for these. The Razer Tiamat, they're actually the 2.2 up there, but I went for the 7.1 set. Oh no, wait, these are the 7.1. Oh, great. Build quality was good, the mic wasn't quite as nice, but I suppose their main selling point is the true 7.1 surround sound audio. And while I did find these to be really, really great for first-person shooters, like it did almost feel like cheating, being able to just almost exactly pinpoint where people are. Sound quality was pretty damn terrible. I'd say they were even worse than the Vengeance 1500s I had. And that kind of brings me on to my next point, because I paired them with this sound card, the Zonar DX, which is a pretty decent sound card. I'd say it's in, as far as, you know, sound cards go, it's in the mid-range. I mainly got it for these analog outputs. Has a lot of them. But this is one of the main points I wanted to make. When Logan was sort of talking about when you upgrade a sound card, you notice virtually no difference from your onboard. That's basically because the single thing that most defines your sound are your headphones or your speakers. They will make the biggest difference. Now, with my Razer Tiamats that I had, they were totally shit for sound quality. So when I paired them with this Zonar DX, I noticed that sound actually wasn't that better. That's because my headphones were holding me back. They were total junk as far as sound quality goes. So basically, I do like listening to music, so I got tired of the Tiamats pretty quick, and I also found them rather uncomfortable. And then I went with a pair of these, the Audio-Technica ATH 8700s, which are probably the most recommended proper headphones for gaming. And I also highly recommend them. These are great. This is an Australian dealer, and they have them listed for $150. That's pretty expensive. I mean, in America, you can find them for under $100. In like Australia, probably around $100. But these are really, really good. They don't really have much bass. So the thing is, when you're playing games, footsteps and gunshots, which are sort of in the mids and trebles, they're not masked by the booming of grenades and sort of other bass sounds. So you can hear footsteps and gunshots really well. And paired with something like the Dolby headphone on a card like the Zonar DX, they're actually a lot better than something like the Tiamats or a gaming headset. They are a little bit more expensive, but I still wouldn't say that they break the bank. And you can also use them to do pretty decent music listening. So these are basically my recommendation for any gamer. Don't faff around with headsets. Just get yourself something like these Audio-Technicas, get like a mod mic or just a Zalman clip-on, a fairly decent sound card, and you'll be good to go. And another big thing you should know if you have a sound card is that don't listen to your music using iTunes. Use something like Winamp or Fubar. They're the two I've sort of messed around with. They're completely free, so if you try them out, you won't sort of lose anything in terms of money. But what a player like Fubar or Winamp allows you to do is use a plugin. Personally, I use Wasapi. There's also ASIO, that's another good one. And what this does is, I kind of have a basic understanding of it, but it basically bypasses your Windows audio. So it doesn't get all processed by the Windows OS. It purely uses the digital to analog converter on your sound card to process the audio, and you end up getting a much, much better sound. So that's another big thing that can affect your sound quality, how you listen to your music. Stop using iTunes. It's probably even if you're just on a basic headset with onboard audio, use something like Fubar or Winamp with the Wasapi or ASIO plugin, and you will get far, far better sound quality, and it'll be completely free. So that's something else I can highly recommend. And also, don't listen to 128 kilobit MP3 files. They're terrible. They sound horrible on anything but an iPod and really bad headphones. Use at least like 256 kilobit MP3s, or if you can, FLACs, which are lossless. So that's another big thing. How you listen to your music can make a big difference. Or I should say what you use to listen to your music. So then basically from the Zonar DX, I wanted to go kind of a step up in terms of sound cards. So I went for this, the Sound Blaster X-Fi Titanium HD. It's a little old at this point, but still a very good sound card. And I was still a bit of a noob at this point when it came to audio, so I fell for this hardware accelerated EX marketing. Basically, this used to be a really big thing a number of years ago when, hardware acceleration did exist, but it basically died off after Windows Vista and 7 came out because they used the Windows OS to basically process music, and they didn't directly access the hardware on sound cards. It kind of comes back to what I was talking about with ASIO and Wasapi, that basically re-enables that. So I kind of fell for this. I bought Bioshock 1, which supports this, and I played it, and it did sound really great, but for any modern games, this whole hardware accelerated thing is dead. Like, it just doesn't factor in. But in terms of the actual quality of the sound card, it was really good. I would describe, at least in my experience, the Zonar DX was quite fun to listen to. It had a really nice sort of, I guess fun is the best way I can describe it. I wouldn't call it sort of clear, unadulterated audio. It was definitely sort of skewed in some areas. But this was very, very clear, very, very neutral. A bit cold sounding in my opinion. So I ended up swapping it out for something else, but we'll get to that in a sec. So basically then I upgraded my headphones to basically one of the Mid-Fi 3, they're generally called, the DT880s. I actually got the 600 ohm edition because I was later going to get an amp that could power them. But yeah, these were a pretty big step up from my AD700s. And that again goes back to what I was talking about with your headphones or your speakers making the biggest difference. Going from the Zonar DX to the Titanium HD, it was a bit of an improvement. But the Audio-Technicas to these Beyerdynamics, that was a big improvement. And these headphones were great. They were very neutral, so I would be later pushed to change my equipment again because I like quite a warm, sort of fairly bass-heavy sound. And I just wasn't getting that with the Titanium HD and these headphones. They were very analytical, but they're quality headphones. They're great. They're very recommended as well by not just me, but other people. So basically, from here, I upgraded to a proper external amp, the Little Dot Mark IV, which is a tube amplifier. And the Mayflower rep in Logan's video briefly mentioned tube amps. He said, I think he said something like, you don't need tube amps to sort of color and improve your sound. I I actually kind of like what tube amps do to my sound. Basically, they warm up the sound, which I suppose in layman's terms is they tend to emphasize the mid bass a little bit. And that's the kind of sound I go for, so these were great for me. But the big thing is, they didn't improve my sound all that much. If any of you have sort of gone on like audiophile forums, or Headfi is a really popular one, a lot of people talk about amps like they make a really big difference. And what you've got to keep in mind is that these people often have been listening to music, like good quality music, for a long time. So any change in the sound signature is going to seem like a really big deal to them. But for someone like me, or a lot of sort of audiophile noobs out there, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. Like just before I recorded this, I actually reconnected my headphones from my little dot amp into my current sound card, a Zonar STX. And while the tube amp, this amp here, it did sort of warm up the bass a bit, it made everything sound quite nice and smooth. Would I call it a big improvement from just the amp on my STX? Not really. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm dissatisfied with my purchase, but you don't need to go blowing hundreds and hundreds of dollars on an amp to get good sound. A lot of the integrated stuff is just fine. That said, it does look freaking awesome. So it's good for that. But then I basically switched my Titanium HD to this, the Zonar STX, because Zonar sound cards generally have a bit of a warmer sound, and like I've mentioned numerous times, that's kind of how I like my music to sound. And again, going back to the whole headphones being the most important thing, this made virtually no difference for my Titanium HD. They do use very similar components, but yeah, there was just very little difference. It warmed up the sound slightly, ever so slightly. I stress that very much. But yeah, there wasn't very much of an improvement. And the second main point I want to make, or I don't know, maybe it's the third by now. But anyway, another main point I want to make about sound cards is that basically sound cards offer phenomenal value for money. Now, what Logan was recommending was that you ditch sound cards and you buy an external DAC. He used, the O2 as an example, which is a very good external DAC amp combo. That's highly recommended as well. But say, for argument's sake, you buy the O2 for $200. These Zonar cards, I think they cost about, between $150 and $200. Now, because Asus and guys like Creative are huge companies, they're able to mass produce these things in China or whatever country they have their factory in. And as anyone who's studied a bit of economics will know, if you're able to mass produce something, you can offer crazy discounts on the parts. So that's the main appeal of sound cards. They offer phenomenal value for money. Like basically to get similar or greater quality than this, $150 sound card, you have to spend like $300 to $400 on a digital to analog converter. So what Logan might possibly find using the O2 is that it, compared to something like this Zonar sound card, it's offering him the same or worse audio even, since I think, O2's come in at about $200, maybe less, maybe more, I'm not sure about that. But that's another big thing. These sound cards offer great value for money. And one other thing I want to mention is that there's a wide range of sound cards out there ranging from, sub $80 to, these are kind of top of the range, $200 sort of cards. Of course, something like a $40 sound card isn't going to sound much better than your onboard. That's just, of course, it's not going to sound that much better. But these things, these high-end sound cards, great value for money. I'm not saying you should go out and buy one, but just keep in mind that a boutique audiophile store isn't going to be able to compete on price with giants like Asus and Creative. So they're able to get you better bang for your buck. So it's not, I suppose a good way to describe it is a linear scale. A $200 DAC from a boutique audiophile store might not be as good quality or as good value for money as a $200 sound card that they're able to mass produce. So that's the end of my little spiel there. Currently, I'm using these headphones, the AKG Q701s. Mine are lime green. But yeah, I just use them because they're slightly warmer than the DT880s I had, and I like that warm sound. So, but they're very similar sound signature wise. So I wasn't expecting a very big change in my sound signature, but I did get that slight thing, and that's really when you sort of get to audiophile level gear. I mean, I consider my setup to be sort of mid-fi. You have to spend lots more and have much better quality stuff to get a true high-end audiophile setup. But basically, once you have pretty decent gear, it just becomes about that 2%, that 5% better you can get to tune the sound to your liking. So that's where buying something like a $400 tube amp makes sense, because you're able to tweak it, to change the tubes, to do whatever to get that little bit further towards the sound you like. But for the vast majority of people, you don't need to spend that sort of money. You don't need that sort of high-end gear. Just some half-decent headphones, a half-decent sound card or external DAC or whatever you want will get you great audio. So I suppose that kind of wraps up my little spiel. Basically, the closing comment I want to make is go out there and get lots of different opinions on audio. Don't just listen to someone like Logan. Don't just listen to me. Go out there, get a lot of opinions, and also nothing beats being able to try something for yourself. The best thing you can do is go down to like a headphone store and try a bunch of different things so you know what you like. I guess that's all I wanted to say here. Like if you liked the video, dislike and leave a comment if you didn't like it, but please tell me why, because constructive criticism is always good. So with that, I'll leave you, and thank you for watching.